Now, these record profit figures have raised concerns amongst some campaign groups, as you might imagine. Let's bring into the conversation Jonathan Davis, economist and wealth advisor. Jonathan, very good afternoon to you.
Hello, Roberto.
Jonathan, nice to be back on the programme. I hope you're well. Jonathan, is now the time to start discussing nationalising energy and utility companies?
It's never the time to discuss nationalising anything. Nationalisation is a short-term palliative. It's like putting elastoplast on a broken leg. It doesn't achieve anything. It's just for show.
Right. Isn't that what rich people say, though?
No, it's what intelligent people say. Socialism has never worked for the people. It works for the rich and the elite. That's what socialism does. It never helps the people. In the short term it does, sure, but I'm sorry, all you have to do is look at every socialist country on the planet today and in history, and there isn't a single case where the people have been helped by socialism.
And rightly you say that, but in France, the energy company is owned by the people, and their energy bills are nowhere near as steep as ours.
Well, that's largely because France used to have, per capita, the biggest fleet of nuclear plants producing nuclear power, therefore electricity, the biggest in the world per capita, but stupidly, the French politicians started to close down their nuclear plants in the last few years. So even in France, their costs of energy have been soaring. Politicians, you know, your business correspondent in the piece said because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, that's the reason why we've got high energy costs. That is such a fallacy, Roberto. Let me tell you, for 10 or 15 years, the Western politicians have told oil and gas companies, do not go looking for and producing oil and gas. Instead, we want these wind turbines, we want these solar panels. In fact, I can remember a year and a half ago talking to you about Rishi Sunak's budget, and I said to you that this Green Deal is going to bake in huge inflation for the populace.
I remember, and I think I agree with you, but the Green Deal, Jonathan, the Green Deal...
exactly what's happened, nothing to do with Russia.
Okay, well, partly it is Russia, Jonathan, but there are Green Deals sort of built in or caked into our bills, and that's because it seems the Prime Minister or his wife were very keen for that to happen.
Yes, as I say, nothing to do with Russia. It's because they wanted us to have hugely expensive alternatives as opposed to the technical term is the base load, the continual efficient energy of a mix of oil, gas, coal and nuclear, which they hate, which means that the politicians hate the people.
No, they don't. Come on, come on, Jonathan. They don't hate them. Well, not all of them, anyway. Jonathan, let me ask you. Look, profit is good in business. You need profit. Otherwise, there's no point in being. But can these companies make too much money? People are feeling the pain. They're really in trouble. It's just the energy companies and their shareholders. They're not feeling anything apart from joy.
I didn't hear anyone complain for the last 10 years. When the oil and gas companies weren't making much money.
Oh, come on, they've always made money. Come on, Jonathan, they've always made money. They've always paid out to their shareholders. Ka-ching.
Yeah, as I say, 2 years ago, we had £1 a litre at the fuel pump. It's now nearly £2 a litre, and if it were me, I'd be telling the oil and gas companies to find and produce as much oil and gas as they possibly can, because your listeners need to get this, not what the media tells them. It's simple economics 101. When supply is less than demand, the price soars. And that is what's been going on, and it's been building for a decade, and the last couple of years is when it's finally taken off. The chickens of the political errors, mistakes are finally coming home to roost. Unfortunately, it's the bottom 90% of the people who are paying for the politicians' mistakes.
So apart from finding and producing more gas, more fuel, the Greens won't be happy about that. Of course, there'll be another conversation there to be had. Is that the only way to curtail because it just seems really unfair, Jonathan, whatever the history might be, where people are struggling. Older people are going to be sitting on buses in the winter to stay warm. They can't afford to stay at home. And yet, British Gas, £1.34 billion in profit. That's not fair, is it?
That is a moral question that you're asking. You're saying, essentially, should companies be allowed to make losses or small profits in bad times and not be allowed to make big profits in good times? Well, what you're essentially saying is business should not be in business. Well, I'm sorry, there are economic cycles, and it's exacerbated by political mistakes. If the short-term winners are the oil and gas companies, so be it. I assure you, they have not been long-term winners. The people actually have done well for the last 10 years by having very low costs of energy. Well, I'm sorry, it's reversed now, and it's not.
And what about those poor folk that can't pay? They just can't pay, Jonathan. What then?
It's terrible, and I've been talking about this for years. We should get rid of the green taxes. We should get rid of the nonsense investing in the solar, in the wind. We should be investing far more in finding oil and gas. And indeed, they've just said they're going to produce a nuclear plant. They should actually be producing 5 more nuclear plants, because the one they've said is going to come in, it's not going to come in for another 15 years.
Jonathan, good talking to you as always. May I ask you, you've been warning about doom and gloom for a number of years. It means you're finally right. We have got 2 leadership contenders for the Tories. One wants to carry on as it is, and one wants to borrow even more money. Who's got it right, do you think?
You might not be surprised to hear that neither of them are even remotely close to getting it right. You say that you infer that there's a material difference between the two of them. I can assure you there is no material difference between the two of them. They want the 90% of the population to continue over the next 10 to 20 years to be even more impoverished. I could go through the deal, but we haven't got the time.
Next time then. Jonathan, as always, thank you, my friend. Jonathan Davis, economist and wealth advisor.